But I would hope that all of you are prepared to think big, not small.
Have you noticed the MSM polls stopped including Bernie Sanders long before it came out that they were helping Hillary Clinton cheat in the primaries, and that Hillary Clinton and the DNC were helping Donald Trump win the Republican primaries? And after all that came out, they still haven't put Bernie back in the polls because they know he would win them. So it's up to us to get the word out that Bernie's still running, because the mainstream media won't, and because Bernie can't. Why? Because he knows that many people will fall for the lie that only Hillary and Trump have any chance of winning. And the mainstream media is not going to cover him directly saying otherwise. So he has a valid reason to think that if he were to directly encourage people to vote for him, many people who get their news all from the mainstream media would only hear that he's no longer supporting Hillary and would take that as meaning that they should vote for the other side of that coin, since they can't imagine the coin landing on its edge. But if you must see the election as a coin toss, at least recognize that you can flip your own coin. Make it a race between Bernie and your favorite third-party candidate instead. Vote for whoever you think is best, rather than whoever you think is second worst. Don't accept good odds of a bad outcome. Improve the odds of a good outcome instead.
I want to see our country have one of the highest voter turnouts in the world, not one of the lowest.
This video includes a rather extensive shout-out list. While I was working on deciding who to leave out in order to shorten the list to a reasonable length, I came across a video on the channel named Philosophy Tube, which does a very good job of explaining the difference between the political left and the political right. I highly recommend watching that video, but don't worry, I'll mention it again at the end of this video so you can watch all the way through this one and not have to worry about remembering the whole time to check out that video afterward. Why is it that people planning on voting for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump seem to be constantly telling people who plan to vote for someone other than Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump that by doing so, they're going to make Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump win? Those who are planning on voting for different candidates who are not Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump may disagree on who to vote for, but still don't tend to accuse each other of making Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump win by voting for someone who's not Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. So just how crazy or stupid does one have to be in order to actually believe the lie that voting for someone other than Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump will make Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump win the election and become the next president of the United States of America? You must see that it's a lie. In fact, if enough of us vote for someone who is not Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, neither of them can win.
And we need your help by the millions.
I recently made a video suggesting that people occupy the area around voting places on Election Day, the 8th of November 2016, here in the United States of America, and perhaps in solidarity elsewhere, as a way of requesting that our government acknowledge and redress our grievance against the unfair means in which this election has taken place so far. Since time is short to get the word out, I would like to ask that some of my fellow YouTubers would also make videos on this topic, encouraging peaceful gatherings on or before the day of the general election, to call attention to our desire for a governmental redress of grievance and a lasting solution to the distressing problem we're facing. Since my YouTube channel doesn't have many subscribers, if you personally know or are a huge fan of any of the YouTubers I mention here, or if you wish any specific YouTuber to make such a video, please consider sending them a link to this video or to my video entitled Unboycott and Occupy the General Election, hashtag Bernie Can Win, along with a polite and friendly explanation of why you would like them to make a video addressing this issue.
We are talking about the need for a political revolution, which says enough is enough, that the billionaire class cannot have it all.
Following my shout-out list, I'll get into some details about occupying the space around the local voting place to hopefully give you a head start on understanding the specific local restrictions to be considered.
When we stand together, we can accomplish extraordinary things.
Some of these YouTubers have online names or nicknames with spellings that I might not be sure the best way to pronounce. But I'm planning to add captions to this video and also include the list in the video's description text. So you should be able to find the spellings and run a search for them if you're curious what sort of YouTube content they provide. Also, if you're new to YouTube or have plenty of time to do some YouTube exploring, going through my shout-out list and checking out a bunch of them should help you to find some interesting and entertaining videos. I wouldn't include them here if I didn't consider them worth checking out. And indeed, I'm sure there are many worth checking out whom I will inadvertently leave out, or have to leave out in order to keep the list from being unreasonably long. I don't expect every YouTuber I'll be giving a shout out to here will be interested in what's going on in the USA's presidential election, let alone the USA's local elections. But that's okay, because I wanted to mention them anyway, and I hope some of them will hear about it and at least consider my request for them to look into throwing something simple together as quickly as possible to help this important cause. Some people have more than one channel, and some channels have more than one person. So if some of the channels I mentioned seem inappropriate for the subject, that doesn't mean whoever owns or produces that channel can't participate. There may be some unintended overlap or redundancy, but such is life. However, if I directly mention anybody twice, or specifically mention any channel twice, other than the one I did say I would mention again at the end of this video, feel free to laugh at me for it. If I mention a YouTuber or channel that has not released a video in a while, consider this an incentive for them to do so, if they have the time and the resources. Oh, and if any of the YouTube channels I mention are actually channels representing television programs, that's because I don't actually own a television, so I have no reasonable way of making that distinction, nor does the distinction really matter to me. Just saying. Okay, so first, a shout out to Adria Ross, whose recent video inspired this idea of an anti-boycott or unboycott to get as many people as possible, including people who would otherwise not even show up at the voting places, to show up, stick around a while discussing their grievances about the election system, and especially this current election, and perhaps even attempt to vote for some good candidates, even if only on a provisional ballot that may be likely not to get counted. But the point is to try, and to encourage trying, to do what we're told by the establishment supposedly can't be done, which is to elect candidates they didn't pick for us. Together, I hope we can make a strong statement that we want better choices and are tired of the psychology of fear being used to make people vote for one of the two choices they least want to be elected. Next, I want to give a shout out to the Key of Awesome, because, of course, Bernie's always in that key. A special shout out to Ian Carter of the Esperanto Association of Britain, and to Jon of DarkAntics and DarkMatter2525, whose classic cartoons range from hilarious to thought-provoking, unquestionably one of my favorite channels. Shoutouts to Thunderfoot, JaclynGlenn, and H.A. Goodman. Also to T.J. Kirk, the Amazing Atheist, Debbie Lusignan, the Sane Progressive, Lee Camp of Redacted Tonight, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, Jordan Chariton of TYT Politics, Jeff Waldorf of TYT Nation, Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk, Jimmy Dore of The Jimmy Dore Show, Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report, Jeffrey Ventrella of Wiggle Planet, Jacque Fresco and Roxanne Meadows of the Venus Project, Bernie Dehler of the YouTube channel SecHummer, The Point with Ana Kasparian, and Progressive News with Tim Black. During the primaries, a few variations were posted on YouTube of an impressive video called "In 180 Seconds You'll Be Voting for Bernie Sanders." And although I'm not sure who participated in its origin, development, or evolution, I would like to give a shout out nonetheless to whoever that may have been. Here are some other YouTube channels I'd like to give a quick shout out to. TMM, Mr. Cheeky Monkey 1996, Mathologer, Vsauce, Liberal Viewer, Feel the Burn, Bob TV, Tamimi, Socially Unacceptable, Bruce Almighty, Dave Ackley, Stevie, Evidence, The Atheist Experience, Theoretical Bullshit, The Bible Reloaded, IFL Science, Antediluvian, Cosmology Today, Smarter Every Day, Sally LePage, Cult of Dusty, The Vegan Atheist, Arguing from Ignorance, God Works Out, Tom Ska, Number File, Godless Mom, College Humor, Rational Warrior, Steve Shives, The Atheist Voice, Timothy Havner, Prototype Atheist, Godless Engineer, Philosophical Atheism, Skeptic Fence Show, Christina Rad, Potholer 54, Bionic Dance, Mr. Rapzion, Underlings, Brainiac 75, Atheist Minority, Retin Link, Crazy Russian Hacker, Concordance, Aaron Ra, Charlotte Burton, Fact vs. Religion, Meridian Frost, Theremin Trees, Don Exodus, Coctopus Prime, Space Rip, How Stuff Works, 60 Symbols, Proportional Response, Non-Stamp Collector, Grappling Ignorance, Edward Current, Qualia Soup, The Thinking Atheist, The Bible Skeptic, Explaining the Future, The Gentleman Physicist, Miles Power, The Informed Atheist, Rock Lee Smith, Geek's Life, Mermaid Melissa, AJ Reisig, That Atheist Guy, Eddie Izzard, Science Channel, Armored Skeptic, Healthy Addict, Goddamn Podcast, Nixie Pixel, Native Lang, D-News, Quirkology, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Logical Language Group, Garfunkel and Oates, Anti-Citizen X, Veritasium, Jesus Never Existed, The Penguin Prof, Bria and Chrissy, Seeker Daily, Paula Prius, Women for Justice, Our Revolution, Christopher Hitchslap, Freeze HD, PBS Spacetime, Cool Hard Logic, Welch Labs, The Super Serious Show, Wesley Wilson, ASAP Thought, King Crocoduck, Taylor Molly, A Skeptical Human, Autumn Lauber, Rex Dean, Q Dragon 1337, and of course, the SETI Institute, since they're probably closer to discovering intelligent life than anyone looking for it here on Earth. I'm sorry, people, I know you're scared, but humanity needs to wake up before it's too late. Every vote for Clinton or Trump as president is a vote for a hostile takeover of the USA. It's your vote, so do as you see fit. But they're a team, treating our government as a corporation, its laws as corporate bylaws, and its citizens as shareholders whose shares are not for sale, but merely up for grabs. They're doing it on your money, with your help, by manipulating your fears, unless you refuse to let them. We can still stop this from being done to us. But first, enough people need to see that they're working as a team. In some states, if you've already voted early, you might still be able to change your vote. Whether you've already voted or not, show up and occupy. Of course, don't get in the way of voters. In fact, there are generally state laws against certain types of activities within a certain distance from the voting places. So while I'm not an attorney and I recommend you look up the laws and read them for yourselves, I have done the research to get an idea of the minimum distance requirements in various states. Here's a simple list of states and their minimum distance requirements as I understand them, according to the information I was able to find. I'll start with those that require you to stay farthest away from the voting place for certain activities, and those that I know of having additional distance restrictions regarding people in line. If I miss where you live, please accept my apology and good luck finding your local regulations.
The American political system has been totally corrupted.
In the state of Louisiana, 600 feet. In the states of Iowa, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and West Virginia, 300 feet. In the state of Wyoming, 100 yards. In other words, 300 feet. In the states of Kansas and Maine, 250 feet. In the states of Alaska, Hawaii, Nebraska, and South Carolina, 200 feet. In the states of Massachusetts, Mississippi, and Utah, 150 feet. In the state of Georgia, stay at least 150 feet from the building and 25 feet from voters standing in line to vote. In the state of Florida, stay at least 100 feet from the building and 25 feet from any voter standing in line to vote. In the state of Ohio, stay at least 100 feet from the polling place and 10 feet from any elector in the voting line. In the state of Oregon, 100 feet, but there's a special restriction against using public address systems capable of being understood within 100 feet of the building designated for the deposit of ballots. In the state of New Hampshire, there are restrictions within a corridor 10 feet wide as determined by the moderator where the election is held. In the states of Arkansas, California, Colorado, Idaho, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Nevada, New York, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin, 100 feet. In the states of Arizona and Connecticut, 75 feet. In the states of Delaware, Indiana, North Carolina, and Rhode Island, 50 feet. In the state of Virginia, 40 feet. In the state of Alabama, 30 feet. In the state of Missouri, 25 feet. In the state of Pennsylvania, 10 feet. In the state of Vermont, not in the building. In the state of Washington, not in a voting center.
Stand up and be leaders in this country.
Every election season in the USA, millions of people do something really stupid by voting for someone they're afraid of in order to prevent the election of someone they're terrified of, all because they believe millions of other people are going to vote for the one they're terrified of in order to prevent the election of the one they're merely scared of. We could have the best candidate win, but instead people try their hardest to elect the one they see as the second worst because they've been convinced that no other candidate can beat the worst one. Well, look around you. This election, one presidential candidate in the USA has enough support that he may just win without even campaigning for himself in the general election. That's right, Bernie Sanders never quit. And millions of people have been planning all along on voting for him without even knowing he was still running. Boldly setting a better example and letting people know we're not going along with the insanity. Working hard to make sure votes for Bernie will count in as many states as possible. Join us in setting a better example, and just maybe people will start following your example. I'll be writing in Bernard Sanders for president in the USA's general election on November 8th, 2016. That's not a vote for Hillary or Trump, no matter what people say. It's closer to a vote against them both, because Bernie has the best chance of beating them out of all the other candidates running. But that's not why I'm voting for him. I'll be writing in Bernard Sanders for president and voting for progressive Berniecrats in other positions because that's who I want to win.
What the media has done is focused on Hillary Clinton and focused on Donald Trump. Well, you know what? This campaign is not about Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Believe it or not, shock of all shocks, this campaign is about you.
Now, I really recommend that you head over to the YouTube channel PhilosophyTube and watch the video named Trump and the Problem with Politics, and consider carefully how the people have been divided and whether or not you can do anything about it. It really does come down to a question of whether one feels that differences should be valued, tolerated, hidden, or done away with, and whether one feels that the oppressed should have a fair shot at a better life or be kept from having that fair shot so that those who already have a better life won't have to compete with those who could have had a better life in a less oppressive society. However, if we realize that life is not a zero-sum game, the solution is clear, because diversity enriches the world, and oppressing people in order to prevent them from competing for resources also ends up reducing the amount of value they can add to the world and prevents them from sharing valuable innovations and from contributing at their full potential to the availability and variety of valuable products and services. Those who are worried about sharing a fraction of the wealth society has allowed them so that others can prosper should consider how much more wealthy they could be in a more wealthy world, where even the poor have what they need to enrich the world, rather than to merely struggle for survival. I understand that those of us who live in a big, crowded city might find these suggested protest gatherings a bit difficult to pick exact locations for, but that's okay. In such places, you can treat it as a distributed rally. Gather in small groups spread over a large area, and if one group gets broken up, find or form another in some other location. In elections, we still lack any way to vote directly against a specific candidate. And until that changes, we are going to have at least some of our dissent silenced. But let's not let them silence all of our dissent, because when that happens, things can only get worse.
The assumption right now on the part of the Republican leadership is most people don't vote, most people don't know what's going on, and many people have given up on the political process. One family, second wealthiest family in America, the Koch brothers, are spending $900 million in this election cycle. They love it, because the smaller the voter turnout, the better they do. American democracy is not supposed to be about billionaires buying elections. You are not looking at democracy, you are looking at oligarchy, and we have got to change that.
Please consider making your own video encouraging people who are unhappy with the election system in any country to make use of knowledge of the locations of their local voting places and their local laws to gather some people on the day of the election that they feel could be improved, and send a message to their government and to the world that they have a grievance they would like those in power to take seriously and to do something positive about. Thank you. And please, please consider voting for Bernie Sanders on November 8th, 2016.
Tell Congress to stop worrying about their fossil fuel contributors. No president, not the best intention in the world, not Barack Obama, not Bernie Sanders, not anybody else, can implement the changes we need in this country without a political revolution.